And hello everyone, this is Travalgar Valentine. How's it going today? Today I want to draw my book that I got, this one, and I like to dedicate it to building drawings that I've done. And I don't know, I want the feeling of like completing a book and completing a project, so that's why I've got it. I just thought I'd do this in real time as well, just so you can see how it's done. Also, I don't know, I could talk for a bit and stuff. You can listen to music if you want, it's up to you. I'm very good at talking to myself in my own head just because I can get distracted by nature and things around me very easily. I can hallucinate into all sorts of different worlds and stuff. When I used to work on the factory floor, I used to work for like 12-hour shifts, and I work with a lot of foreigners, so you can't really talk to them or really bring up like interesting conversations. So I used to just talk to myself in my own head, even come up with like movie ideas and that. And I don't know. You have enough time to think about characters and scenes and all sorts of stuff. I think about a lot of things when I draw. When I'm just chilling out here in my studio, sometimes it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so it's early in the morning. Listen to music and just get into that zone. You know what I mean? I think I'm just on a weird castle kind of structure for now, but I don't know what's going to end up like. And I think a lot of like, where do the voices come from? Because it's an unanswered question, because there's no definitive answer, so a lot of variables are open. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we can dismiss, but no, there's a lot of variables open, so we can discuss a lot of things about it. I mean, doctors say that the memories and all your ideas and all your thoughts and stuff that can be actually just located inside the brain. But once you open the head up and just see the brain as a mush, you can't see the memories or program it into the computer to find the memories or anything. I kind of believe I think it's Marshall McLuhan. He's like a communication philosopher from the 50s, saying that your brain's like a TV antenna that picks up signals from far away. And we all know there's all sorts of other dimensions that we can't see. Um, like, the materialistic world really only makes up of like 1% of the environment. There's radio waves, microwaves, and all sorts of different wave flows flowing through us, and there's a lot of things happening in that space that we don't really know about in the air, and other creatures and stuff like that can see in multiple prime numbers. Like octopuses, I think, can see like in 10 prime numbers. So God knows what kind of colours they can see, the colour palette that they see, and animals that are colourblind or adapt to the dark, what do they see? And what kind of voices do they have in their head? Like, I think I saw something by Marshall McLuhan how we have the dominance hierarchy of like the kingdom of systems, which is giving messages to the elements on the earth that construct it, and that can shape it and move it to different perceptions. And different levels of different kingdoms can do different jobs and different roles and have stronger messages from the earth itself. Like you have I think the elemental kingdom, the fire, water, air, and earth. And I'm not saying that there isn't elements that you can break down to science. I'm just kind of like zoom out the resolution instead of just saying the precise elements that consisted of it, but instead just say the elements of cause. Like it's not the how, but it's what happens. So there's the four elements, and they can massively change the construction of the environment. but the progress is very, very slow. So not much change is really noticeable until you see over time. And time is sort of like, it speeds up the more into reality you get, the more aware you are. It speeds right up to the point where you can control every second of what you do. And then once you zoom out the time, you get into the future and stuff. Like the planets outside the solar system, they move at a rate of billions of years around, and I think they've got their own intentions. Like I think Jupiter's absorbed so many impacts from the Earth, and I'm guessing that the solar system will have its own mind, and it has Jupiter there to protect us, and Pluto there for a reason if it is a planet, Mars for there for a good reason, and Earth there good for a reason. Earth's there for a good reason because it's an optimum condition for life. So, and the star itself, the sun itself, it should have died ages ago, like every other average star. But our star is special, and it's kind of protected itself, using the power of the solar system. So we have the elements. They can kind of cover everything. So the elements on the planet itself. I'm not talking about the planet as a structure, but sort of messages. And then you have like going up the ladder. You have like crystals, which can change rock, grow in the light. They can break down rock into soil for new life and give themselves beautiful crystalline colours. And their message is very, very low, very, very subconscious, very, very deep, deep, deep down, where there's not much activity, not much change to the environmental factors around it. It's got like a primary purpose, like every metal and rock that was in the ground that makes up the elements now, perhaps were put there for it slowly developed from the smallest amount and then just gradually progressed further and further outwards. And we name the elements for the time that they've been there and their environmental change. You go deep down, you can find all these beautiful crystals everywhere. Now, as the time increases, where the crystals will exist on a very, very long space of time, and it's getting more and more aware into reality. So the next step would be like the vegetable kingdoms, which would which again have messages from Earth about what to do on the surface. Like they're in some sort of like trance kind of state. They're under a trance of Earth that they need to sprout up from the ground and grow no matter what. And then you have personalities of the plants themselves. Like trees will be like the guardians, where they hang over the forest and protect it from dangerous things in the air. So like canopies, and they're like the guardians. And then you have they have like little siblings that they latch onto. So you have ivy grow up the tree. Then you have little friends at the bottom with a bunch of mushrooms, which will grow in the dark places, which no one wants, and they can grow on the mud pies of cows and that. So they're like the little assistants where they kind of help everything out because they grow where they don't want, where things don't want to grow. And even like a long time ago, mushrooms were once upon a time. I saw some fossilized ones that were about 7 feet tall. Like they were bigger than trees at one point. Trees were only 3 feet tall because I think that was the oxygen levels. And mushrooms could exist like even in space, like the spores of it and that. So the mushrooms were like the dominant kind of plant at one point. But because they know that there's need to be room for bigger plants that have higher purpose, they kind of died down, and now they exist in like the shallow parts, but and they can sprout like 300 feet all around it with spores, so it's like still dominant in the forest even though it's small size and that. And you have like nettles and brambles and stuff like that, which are like bully plants, which don't want to share with what they have, so they have thorns on it and spiky poisonous stuff. And some plants have adapted to like eating insects as well and stuff. Like maybe they don't get nutrition, so they've devised a way of getting nutrition. They spawn all sorts of different seeds, and Some of them were developed before animals, so they needed to try and disperse the seeds themselves. It could be with weather patterns of wind or rain, and this is where the elements come in, and the earth just kind of helping them along. The crystals kind of breaking up the soil for them, and ground run down in the deep underground, moving the earth around to allow the plants for optimum growth. It's like when the dinosaurs first came around, they got so big because the plants were just left to flourish all over the world and grew to huge, huge heights. So when the dinosaurs first came and started evolving onto the land, it was just like a giant buffet for them, so they just munched away at everything. Then you have like plants which are beautiful, which like attract insects for dispersation and stuff, and the responsibilities and the roles for the earth start getting a lot higher as the time increases that they have. And the time they probably have, they won't be able to feel like everyday consciousness. Maybe like on a weekly basis or something, they'll be just momentarily aware of what is going on. They can't do much because they're in a trance state from Earth or Gaia or whatever you want to call it. So they just sit there and wait for the next message, which is usually just grow and reproduce, protect this, protect that. They have like plants which have too much ego, which grow like weedy lots and parking places and on the roads and stuff that you don't want into gardens. So they're just like, bloom, here I am. Um, then you have like more beautiful and tame plants of a garden, precisely placed for specific locations and that. What else about plants? I don't know. I like mushrooms. I like the Santa Claus mushroom and that, I like looking at ethnobotany, which is plants that affect humans. So that's like another concept where plants have devised that they understood that there's going to be creatures and animals on this planet, so they often themselves up for different sacrifice to help that along. They're under a trance, so they can't really complain or do anything about it. So they'll make some certain plants will understand that there's this kind of animal living here, so we'll grow here for that animal to survive. I know that seems like kind of far fetched, like the plant or the earth would decide that, but I think the earth understands that everything can be allowed to put where they want, and everything can be taken away. Like cockroaches or something, they haven't disappeared for like 300 million years. Just because they're not in the way, they don't do any damage, there are no problems. So it's like, just leave them alone, it's fine. And different trees and different plants have grown to adapt to the environment with the sun and the weather, the elements and the crystals and the rocks and form underneath. And then you can move on to the animal life where like they're sort of like hypnotized, and the responsibilities as time increases kind of goes. So and I think they were like helped by plants to be invented because seeds and stuff like that need to be dispersed to lots of different locations because of environmental changes. Like maybe they knew an ice age was coming along, so they devised like an animal that would be drawn to eat the seeds and then disperse them to another area. So when the ice age came along, although it seems like really really far out, but it's a process that will take millions of years. And yeah, if you've got a million years, you can plan a lot. And as you can see with the other animals, lots more morality and ethics starts applying. So you get packs of families running around, and other families join other families, mothering for the young, and they don't bother the plants. They just leave them alone. They take what they want, and they can use it to advantage for camouflage and hunting and stuff, and treetops and stuff. So the plants are just lying back and just accepting what things are going on, and animals have just hypnotized, so they just go with what the urges are. It's like with dogs and animals when they try and domesticate them. You've just still got to remember it's still a wild animal, it's still like an animal. And yeah, can be domesticated and they like to follow rules, so that's why they can be. But just remember, it's just an animal that would eat meat in the wild and that. So when people get aggressive about how an animal behaves, it's like, well, it is an animal. You can't really complain about you don't know how an animal will behave. Well, if you want to behave an animal, you have to show it dominance and give it orders and stuff and make sure it understands that. And it's not the animal's fault if it doesn't understand you. I mean, you're speaking on a whole different language, and especially seen with like chimp troops and stuff like that with their behavior and how they use tools and all sorts of different things. And even with like parrots and stuff, parrots can. There's one parrot called Alex who knows like 9,000 words or something daft like that. Maybe not that much, maybe like 4,000 or something, but still, it's one smart bird, and they can solve problems with. That's why they use mice for mazes and all sorts of stuff. So, and they just get what they're given, hypnotized, And I like when like you look at things like Rupert Sheldrake's idea of morphic fields, which is where like uh, there's an inherent memory of the animals and how they behave and stuff, and that can be very quick to react to the environment. So the animals on one side of the earth, like the squirrels, to say, because they're hypnotized in their thinking, they just do what a squirrel does. But where the location where they get their ideas from and what's given them is equal around the whole world. So it's like picking up a reception, like a TV reception, of what to do, and it stays this because it's in this another dimension. It stays. The location isn't known, and it's everywhere. It's like in a dimension within the air itself. So, and Rupert Sheldrake proved this with like I think it was like sparrows or something. They noticed that in Britain they left like this bit of cream on top of the milk tops, and one sparrow just got like a taste of it and noticed how delicious it was and how easy it was to get, and used to poke the holes in the tin foil and drink out the milk and that. And it was very nutritious for the young, and they found that this is a clever way of doing it. So they like more and more and more birds kind of did it, and they can't really communicate with each other. Yeah, I mean they can tweet that this is where food is and that, and I don't think they can say, "Hey guys, check this out! I found an awesome milk bottle. Hey, I've just put up a tin foil in that and drink away. It's chilled out, no problem, bros." Like they can just tell where food is. I think Earth will recognize where they're flourishing and then maybe try to assist them. And because they get the signal from like another environment, like ones in Holland started doing the same, and they can't migrate over there because it's too far away. So there was no way of actually telling them to do it, but they kind of the general morphic field of the sparrows and that kind of just told them that you can actually discovered some part of the environment that where it can actually flourish better if they take advantage of somewhere that this other creature humans have left. And you can see it in crows as well, where they notice how cars stop on a crosswalk, so they'll grab nuts and then put them on the road, and then notice when the vehicles stop to crush the nuts and open them up for them, and then know when the vehicles move off again with a green light, so they can grab the nuts that's already been crushed for them. It's like adapting to the environment. Or pigeons known to actually get on buses because they know it's quicker, and animals are very, very smart to adapt into the environment. And like I said, they seem to be in some sort of trance in the morphic field. And it can be the same for plants as well, the morphic field of the plants. No matter how much, it's like a collective memory that you can't really get into or tap out or absorb or anything like that. It's just sort of what the earth has built up as knowledge in its time. So it's like, right, this creature humans are doing this to this environment, but this animal is kind of helping. I don't think it would do much harm. Let's tell the rest of them to do that as well. I think that'll be a good idea. So yeah, I think it's a interesting idea. Then you can move into the human stage, and you can also just like notice that the reflections of these past kingdoms can be seen in our lives as well. Like, there's got to be some sort of resonance of DNA or characteristic that we have that comes from originally from the very first elements and into the crystals and into the rock. And I don't know, maybe it's like we are crystallized in time as soon as we're born. Like, the DNA is crystallized with like a little timer on it saying 80 years, boom, for this child. And you are now born into this culture, into this history. Time has just started up for you at the quickest rate, where you're in the here and now moment. So you're kind of like crystallized in time. It's kind of beautiful, as beautiful crystals are. And when moving into plants, plants kind of like crystals are like very very low consciousness. So as you can see with like babies, they're like on LSD all the time. So they're just waving around and stuff. So their subconscious messages that they get from the earth are very very low, like from the rocks and crystals and stuff. But then you move on to like plants, which they have like a mirroring effect of where. Um, ooh, sorry, I forgot to move the page. That was very rude of me. What was I saying? Plants. Yeah, they're the what was it, the trance kind of state or the hypnotized state? I can't remember, but they kind of just know to grow, reach for the light, latch onto things, and just have fun and play in the wind. And they've got the innocence about them. Sort of like plants have an innocence about them. So children have the innocence about them. Like, even though when they do something wrong, they don't know that it's actually wrong. So they've got like that innocence. It's like when plants grow somewhere, you don't want them to grow. We can't really complain. They're just doing their job. That's just where they found it. If you leave space out, bully plants will come along, like the sharp nettly ones. And they go for the light and grow up and spring tall. And then with the mind turning into like being hypnotized by the earth and moving into that animal realm, we like go into teenage stage where we can form into social patterns and pack hierarchies and that, and all the reflections of how a human behaves can be reacted into a teenager as well. And you know, this reacts like on a subconscious level. It's like when that dude Bruce Limpton, who was like the first guy to operate in stem cell research, like the 70s or something, where he discovered that the nucleus in a cell wasn't really reacted to like certain environment. It's just it reacted to certain environmental factors instead. So you can change the way a cell grows by changing the environment it was in. So you change it into like a muscle or a fat tissue or into a nerve cell or a blood cell and stuff like that, just by changing the environment. And he has this thing called the honeymoon effect, where he says when you fall in love and you're infatuated with her and you can't stop thinking about her, and you'll you won't even think about the discipline you need. It'll just be boom straight away. This is the woman I want, and you start getting yourself looking all nice and ready and be really really disciplined. You'll be in sort of like a trance, and people will just like watch you and like, oh my god, you can definitely tell he's going on a booty call or something, you know. Oh, he's definitely got a woman in his mind and stuff, and like we can't really control love. It's just well, there's like 6 different types of love. I can't remember what they're called, but like love for a woman, you can't really control that. So you notice that like the environmental factor, how much it changes and how much it changes without our consent as well. It's like when Jordan Peterson described like dominance hierarchies as some sort of evidence for God, because they've been around for 300 million years, like in like lobsters and crustaceans and all sorts of other stuff. and they've been controlling how lobsters behave and stuff like that for 300 million years, and it still represents in us. So for like a dominant hierarchy force to be alive for 300 million years and then still controlling us to this day, you can tell it's like some sort of godlike power, isn't it? Some sort of force that controls everything. Although it's not the only force that controls everything, but you know what I mean. And then you move to like the human kingdom, which is like the ultimate concept, where we start conserving energy systems and language starts building up and forming, communication, where I think we'll drift further and further away from the morphic fields that I was talking about before that Sheldrake was describing, like messages from the earth on how we should behave. Like because our time starts speeding up more and more, we can't tap into it as easily. So and we start really being dependent on our own and how we're going to change and affect stuff. And you can see how some of this morphic field resonance has really affected us currently at the moment, where like even though we've invented all these things and we have massive amounts of communication and we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years, and our technological advances and historical advances, the miracles that we've performed, the miracles of the old, of the ancient, we we still have patterns in our culture and beyond our culture that will not go away. Sort of like a morphic field of earth telling us that something is there. Like alchemy. That's like old science, like before modern science pish. But it won't go away. It's like not needed or out, but it just won't go away. And there's even animation cartoons now that was bring this old alchemy kind of system that was originally from the Egyptians back into system. And ethnobotany, that won't go away. Like shamanism, as you can tell, the massive production of cannabis that's coming out, and the legalization that's in production, and not just of cannabis, but also Salvia divinorum, psilocybin cubensis. We've got MDMA that's going into Mexico and turned into medication for all sorts of stuff. LSD being a treatment for what was it? I can't remember now. But an ayahuasca being in Brazil and Amsterdam. So ethnobotany is definitely like a morphic field that we used to have. That it's been around since like the shamans used to use like ethnobotany for 10,000 years. So it's like been around for a long time. It's still progressing now, no matter how much fine they put up and now how much like the cost of it raises up. We'll always have it no matter what, which is kind of a good thing. I think it's can really change a lot, and I think like our culture is going a bit backwards. I know that sounds a bit daft with the technological advances now, but I think we're just going to the where the technology's been performed is like getting more and more primitive thinking, and not primitive thinking in the aspect of the technological sense, but like primitive thinking like the music is starting to slowly become more and more tribal with electronic environment that's coming in there. Um, what was I just talking about? Yeah, music going back into the kind of primitive drumming and beats and stuff like that. Our communication is just, and our television where we just sit and stare and watch at stuff. Can maybe bring it back to like when we used to sit and stare and watch at fires. Our dream of going into space, I mean, that's always been like a very historical thing where the people fly in the sky. Or like another morphic field thing we can think about is how inventions are like discovered at the same time. Like they were wanted to be discovered at that particular time that humans have existed. Like, what was it, a thermometer? I think like 12 people invented it exactly the same time around the world, and there's also like multiple people who invented planes before the Wright brothers as well that haven't got credited. Also, Darwin's theory had credits from another person as well. So like, inventions are actually kind of morphic fields. Like, they're actually invented for a particular time, and it's hard to actually give an aspect that to think that the nature around us has an actual definitive purpose. Like, it actually has a meaning for doing things, and like it does certain things because it wants to and needs to and other stuff. But you gotta remember this is a force that we can't control, and it could be like some sort of giant karma, but there is so much out there that we have no idea. Like, I think the technological advancements we have right now are like 1% of what's really actually there. It's like when like people have actually come up with theories of like seeing UFOs and stuff like that. Like they exist on a different dimension. Their technological advancement for like transportation stuff is just on another dimension altogether that we can't even comprehend with our prehistoric technology. And you see glimpses of lights and flashes and stuff, but that's just like residue, I think, into our environment. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just doing the way my book. I don't know. I just let my mind wander. Can't really take things too seriously. So, I, I had a revolution when I was like about 6, 7 years ago, where I used to study health and fitness. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but and I studied health and fitness for a long time, and in school, like what I wanted to do, like afterwards, is become like a personal trainer. And I used to get really into bodybuilding, so I used to be a competitive bodybuilder, haha. And got into university to study sports coaching to get the psychological side of things, and that was that was really eye opener. And they don't really take bodybuilding as kind of like a sport at all, even though it's like got competitive sponsorships and things. I mean, although yeah, but it's a highly disciplined sport to sculpt your body in a certain direction. I think it's pretty interesting and requires a lot of dedication. Like diet, and I think you should diet like look after my diet like 8 months of the year, and then be have a few off months, but where I'd have to cut down like 7 stone a year just because I put on weight really easily. But I kind of quit all that just because I got eye opener when I went to Liverpool for show and just saw this ginormous beast. It was like 20 years old, 22 stone, ripped to the bone, professional bodybuilder, and I was like, he was already 7 stone heavier than me, and he was 2 years younger. And I just thought, I am so out of my league, I am not even going to bother trying anymore. And it was so fun. I'm not going to say it's wasted. I was just like, I took a pursuit. I went on a journey in a pursuit that I didn't really. And had dead end, but certainly changed things. And my wife was very, very supportive of me as well. I used to do personal training, and I was a swimming instructor as well, and a lifeguarding as well. So I did a bit of sport activities. But when like 6 years ago, that's what I was getting back to. I had this. I watched this film Fathead, and well, that kind of just destroyed everything I learned in like 10 years of health and fitness. Because like the typical norm for the health and fitness revolves around Ansel Keys' 1958 theory of high fat causes heart attacks and stuff, and 90% of the culture still exists on that. But it's been proven like 10 times that it's completely wrong, and he just made up it, and it was just a government funded kind of thing, just for the nutrition purposes and that. And a high fat diet was actually a lot more healthier for you and much more close to what we were originally being evolved to actually adapt to. Um, like the healthiest people on the earth were the native Indians in America, where they ate all the buffalo. They were like averaging 7 to 8 feet tall. There was one actually pit where they found 3,000 skeletons, all 9 feet tall. So they were big people, existing very long time. Probably got hundreds of years of life in them. You could see 15 miles away. Amazing, amazing creatures. And then like even like Inuits and in the North Pole that eat nothing but whale blubber. They were very, very healthy. And in the wild, you'll never see any vegetables growing seasonally. And we originally just followed the game around all year round. So we just like follow the animals around all season and camp out and follow them and eat the meat and stuff like that, and not just pick off bits off the herd. And that's what was really healthy for us. And it wasn't until someone dropped some seeds and then came back next year following the game again, and they get like the game will go back to the same spot where they were birthed and that. So they came back to the same spot and noticed where they had dropped the seeds, like plants and bushes started growing. So they got the idea of planting more seeds, and then waiting, they realised they can grow, and then boom, it was off. They had to grow and grow more and more seeds, and then people noticed, so they had to like protect them and fight for them, and then maybe someone destroyed theirs and took for the taking, and then so someone decided to build walls and defences, and then maybe hire someone, and maybe a family started getting involved. Then you get like a town started forming, and massive towers forming, weapons, and then like the town started like getting walls around it, so castles started forming, and then castles need better defense, so they came out of stone and with moats and stuff. Eventually, you just got culture. So, but we originally started off eating meat, and like places like Sweden still do it. And this guy Fathead that changed everything for me. He basically went to McDonald's and did the same that guy did on Supersize Me, but he did it realistically and properly. Like the guy in Supersize Me kind of cheated his way into it. Like he says that he did a lot of things that weren't actually possible, like eat this many calories and eat all this, and tell him how much it would cost. You could tell that he was obviously paid to actually just talk crap about McDonald's, basically. But this guy, Tom Norton, was it on Fathead? He went to McDonald's every day, and after a month, he had health checks before and health checks after. He was like 12 pounds lighter and actually healthier, and just because he reduced his carbohydrate down to like 40% or something of his diet and increased his fat uptake. Excuse me. So like that kind of blew me away. Sorry, just tied off. I think I need a drink. One sec. Okay, we're back. Sorry, I was dying off. Saturday morning, just finished work yesterday. My day off, and I've only still had 5 hours sleep. I wanted to draw, man. I'm just recovering from a cold, so I'm not very well. Oh, what was I talking about? Oh, Fathead. It kind of works how where in your glycogen system you can only hold like 2,000 calories worth of sugar, but in your blood sugar you can only hold like a teaspoon of sugar. If you injected like any more than that into your blood, he'll just kill you instantly. So we are very, very poison. Sugar's a very hard poison for us. You won't actually believe it, but it does, and everything gets converted into the sugar for the glycogen from carbohydrates and protein. So if something says like cereal, which like an average bowl would be like 50 grams, would have about 45 grams of that would be like carbohydrates. And then when like the dietary requirements, which would say like 200 grams of carbohydrates a day, that's like 200 grams of sugar. And if you can only hold like 5 grams in your system, that's like 50 times more than what you should be having. That would normally kill you. And that's what the dietary recommendations are. But because we've got a great body and we can absorb all these crappy toxins and that, it doesn't have that much of an effect of us. And you'll know how much an addictive substance it really is when if you stop having sugar for like 12 days or something like that, or carbohydrates, you'll just turn to like a crack addict. Like you'll start having flu-like symptoms, hallucinations, headaches, all sorts of random stuff will happen. Happened to me anyway, but it's a really, it's a really addictive substance. But on the other hand, when you have like fat, where like healthy saturated fat and monosaturated fat, polysaturated fat and shit, they come from like olive oil, nuts, a little bit of dairy, cheeses and that, meats. Um, they're really really good for you, and they actually produce good cholesterol, HDL, I think it does or something. And with your body produces insulin to actually get rid of like the toxic sugars. So like you'll have a large amount of carbohydrates, so you produce a lot of insulin, which brings your blood sugar down, so it doesn't kill you. And then you can actually digest the carbohydrates, and it gets turned into the appropriate measures. And anything fat there will just go be turned into fat, and the carbohydrates and the sugars and stuff like that will be transferred down. But if you have like fat, you don't need to produce insulin. That's why with like diabetic people, they don't produce the insulin that they need to actually like just digest the carbohydrates. So where they have like too much sugar, they don't have the insulin to actually compensate for that. So they have to have insulin shots. And if they don't, they'll kill them because the sugar will kill them. But they don't recommend that the fact if you have a high fat diet like a ketogenic diet or an Atkins diet or the what they call it a paleo diet, which is not a very good term for it, but that actually doesn't need to actually produce insulin to have that diet, and because it can be really used really healthily. The Swedish people use it very often. Like that dude Steve Finney, he went on like the high fat diet for like 30 years with his diabetes, and he says he actually stopped taking his medication like 2 or 3 years ago because his body doesn't need the insulin to actually digest the fats because you don't need to break it down into your like your glycogen systems, and because your fat needs to like bind together or break down for your body to actually take it in, and then because it doesn't need it, and you're not producing insulin, it'll just get rid of it straight away. But you'll have to restructure it before you actually get rid of it. So that process of actually reconstructing the fat molecules, so the more you eat fat, the more you actually lose weight. So I kind of tested this for 6 weeks where I went like a 90% fat diet, and I lost like 5 pounds a week. I was eating like 4,000 calories a day. I was be eating like I'd have half a block of butter in my coffee, another half like at lunchtime. And I would be never hungry because your blood sugar only is there for when you get hungry again. Your glycogen systems go down. So because you don't actually produce that much glycogen and your body runs on ketones. It's not ketone acidosis. That's a different kind of medical term. But your body does actually get hungry. So I was just like full of energy all the time. But the only problem is that it's a really sensitive diet to put on, so it puts a massive strain on like your social environment. So like you'd have to have a high fat diet, and trying to do that in a social environment is very difficult. Every restaurant or you'll go to with for a social gathering will have carbohydrates with it. I think like the only way I managed to get around it is when I would have a burger, wouldn't eat the bun, and just have the beef and the cheese and the bacon, and not have any fries, but have a salad with it. So it's just meat and salad. And like for breakfast, I would have bacon and sausages and eggs, which are really good for the diet. Like you can eat as much of bacon and sausage and egg for this diet as you want, and you still lose weight. And so I used to make like 5 egg omelets sometimes as well. And my usually you can have lots of protein snacks as well, like salami sticks and all sorts of stuff. But I used to have olive oil as a snack. I used to put like a shot of it in a water bottle and then just stir mixed up, so like it's a quite an even consistency within it. It won't be quite mixed in, but then I'll just neck it and it'll be quite easy. I've got a bit of an iron stomach, so I can digest really rare random things. And it really works for runners as well, like because they don't rely on their glycogen systems for like fuel. They're someone on a ketogenic diet who has like 90% fat will will use the body for fuel, and you have like 40,000 calories in there. So when they tested out with people on like push bikes, they just kept on going on and on and on. I didn't actually stop because of that much energy. But yeah. I'm trying to think, maybe I should put 0.8 on this one. The problem with this book actually bleeds through, but I'm not letting it get the better of me. I'm kind of this picture here, as you can see, it's bleeding from this picture. Like a blue streak through it, but I think I can make that work. It'll be alright. Sorry, I had to cut out there for a second. Yeah, there's other guys like Tim Noakes who's done the diet, who's like an athlete, and he said how much it helps him. And I, knowing all this information, like when I watched that fight, and because it was so completely different from the norm that I've been taught for such a long time, I was like obsessed with it. So like in the first like month or 6 weeks, I just like looked at as many YouTube videos and as many books as I possibly could about the ketogenic diet, about the Atkins diet, having a already pretty interest in health and fitness, so I had like good resources where to go and stuff. And hours and hours and hours and hours every single day for this month, just because it shocked me so much, because my whole college education that I had for 3 years sports coaching never ever mentioned the possibility of this. I couldn't find it in any kind of like magazine ever, because it's so like not the norm. So and in that month, in that 6 weeks, I've learned more about health and fitness. Excuse me, like than I had in that 10 years, and like I couldn't believe how much I like understood and learned in that month. Like I've never been that motivated to learn ever in my life. Like I've been forced to like for subjects in school, but that was unreal. That was just like I was possessed to find knowledge, and since then, like because I had like a revelation of how quickly I could learn, and when I'll be just possessed to learn something, I would just be go out and hunting, trying to find ideas. Excuse me. So like I went on to Noam Chomsky with his political ideas, and that was kind of a bit boring, so it didn't last too long. But yeah, he's one of the guys who's top fighter as well. We got Graham Hancock, which is with his British journalism of looking at historical ideas. He's a true fighter for historical ideas. You got Rupert Sheldrake with morphic fields, Bruce Limpton with his stem cell research, and his Terence McKenna and his brother Dennis McKenna about ethnobotany and philosophy, Marshall McLuhan with his communications, Carl Jung for psychology, Freud for psychology as well. Then you got like Jordan Peterson with his amazing psychology lessons and stuff. Got people like Randall Carlson, who's a geologist. So yeah, just like I was just one after the other, like boom, 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 just like learned about ethnobotany, philosophy, psychology, a bit of biology, a bit of physics. I already had knowledge of anatomy, sport, health, and fitness. So it's like, yeah, that was a big turning point for my time. And right now, I think the majority of my education learns come from Jordan Peterson. I think I can learn a lot from him because like, a lot of it can I apply the most relevant to myself. I've become really disciplined and stuff. And Terence McKenna still has some merit. I think there's a lot of things that I wouldn't agree with now that I'm kind of matured and kind of thought about everything that he was saying. But he was definitely on like the right track with like the archetypes and the needing for ethnobotany and stuff. So he was definitely on the right track. And his brother Dennis McKenna, who's like a like 6 PhDs or something stupid like that. He's like ridiculously smart. So yeah, there's lots of smart people out there if you just learn to listen. And I looked at conspiracy theories of like this, the giants, learned about the 10 different evolutions of humans, ley lines, the old resolutions of the precession cycles, historical factors of the human evolution, ice ages, and so there's so much out there like to know, and that schools won't even teach you. Like Rupert Sheldrake's got evidence of telepathy in morphic fields, and they won't teach you that. And Graham Hancock's got cool ideas of how pyramids might be, what age the pyramids would be, and other historical ideas. And they won't teach that. It's like this is like the generation that's gonna like look after us, and we're not even giving them like the full bouquet of knowledge that they need for the future. It's like let's get these children educated, man. Even if the ideas aren't right, let's just bring it forward more clearer so we can take a look for ourselves. I don't know. Well, this page is coming on pretty nicely. I forgot I wasn't talking. I went completely blank there for a second. My mind just drifted away. I can't do that. I don't talk out loud ever when I'm when I'm just drawing. Unless I'm arguing with myself and I'm trying to figure out something. What should I do next? What should I do next? But I don't know. I think I might make this book this page come to a close. 'Cause I've got other things I want to do. But I'm quite happy the way it's turned out. A lot of this I don't know. I can't really explain a lot of the actions that I've done. It's just what comes to me at the time. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I've got the rest of the day as well. It's still the morning yet, so I've still got lots to do today. I'm not sure if my friend might be calling us up or not, but we'll see. Yeah, let's leave it like that. Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry if I was boring you with my waffling.